Now I'm going to do my air brakes test. First I'm going to start the engine. Let the gauges sweep and settle so I can perform a safe start. So now the engine's on, the first test I'm going to do is my cut-in test. Before I start it, I got to make sure my gauges aren't currently moving, letting me know that my governor is not currently on. So I'm going to give it a rev. So my needles aren't moving at all, so I know my governor's not currently building air. Okay? So I'm going to test my cut-in when my air pressure starts cutting in and starts building air again. It should be no less than 85 psi.
Okay.
Right now I'm at about 120 psi. So I'm going to fan the brakes, stopping between every fan for about 15 seconds to see if the air pressure starts building. So I fanned it down to about 102. I'm going to wait 15 seconds to see if it starts building air. So my needles are now moving, they're rising. So it's building air pressure. So my governor cut in, right?
Yeah.
It cut in before 85 psi, so that's a good test. Okay? So now the next thing I'm going to do is my build-up test. I'm going to fan my brakes down to 85 psi, and I'm going to time how long it takes to get from 85 psi to 100 psi. It shouldn't take longer than 45 seconds. Okay? Yeah. So that's about 85 psi. I'm going to wait for 45 seconds to make sure it doesn't take longer than 45 seconds to go from 85 to 100. So we're at 100. Took about 25 seconds. That's a good test. Now I'm going to test my cutout test. My needle should stop moving, and my governor should kick off and stop building air at no more than 130 psi. So it's got to turn off before 130 psi. I'll hear air disperse too. That'll also let me know. But main things are I want to make sure my needles stop and it doesn't keep rising. So we're at about 126 psi. The needle stopped rising. The governor cut off. Right? It's less than 130, so that's a good test. Okay. Next test I'm going to do is my low air warning and my pop-out test.
Okay.
So I'm going to put it in a low forward gear and turn it off. Now that we're in a low forward gear, I can release all my brakes and we're not going to move because we're in the low forward gear. So I'm releasing my brakes so that way I can do the low air warning and the pop-out at the same time. So both my tractor and my trailer brakes are released, so I can turn the key back to the on position. That way my gauges work. And I'm going to do my low air warning test. So currently I'm sitting at about 103 psi, right? My low air warning's got to come on between 55 and 75 psi. So I got to fan the brakes down until my low air warning comes on. I'll know the low air warning comes on because I'll hear a buzzer, like an alarm, and I'll see a light come on letting me know my low air warning's up. So we're right about 60 psi. My brake air light came on, let me know my low air warning's on, and I can hear the buzzer, right? So that's a good test. It wasn't less than 55. That's a good test.
Yeah.
So now I gotta test my pop-out test. Both my knobs should pop out at no less than 20 psi, between 20 and 45 psi, right?
Yeah.
So I gotta fan my brakes down until both knobs pop out.
Okay.
Between 20 and 45 psi. So my trailer knob popped out, but my service knob hasn't popped out. My tractor knob, so I got to keep going until both of them come out. Right now we're at about 45 psi. There we go. My knobs, if you look at them, are both at about 20 psi. My primary and my secondary. My secondary tanks are right around 20. The service brake popped out, so it's a good test, right? My pop-out test is good. So the next test I'm going to do is my static pressure loss and my applied pressure loss test. So to do it, I got to put it back in neutral, but I got to make sure both my brakes are actually set. I'm going to put it in neutral. I'm going to perform another safe start. Let my gauges sweep. Start it up. I'm going to rev the engine so we build the air a little bit faster. I'm going to go all the way to the cutout to about 130 psi before I start this applied and static pressure loss test. So my primary's building now. It's at about 75 psi. It's not going to start building my secondary until I hit 100 psi on my primary. So that's at 100, so that's why we're starting to build on the bottom one now. Just gotta let it go all the way up. So we're at 100 psi. I want to take it all the way to cutout. That way I know I got full air pressure for the test. Alright, so I'm at full air pressure, my governor cut out, my needles aren't moving. Let me know my governor's not actually on right now. So now I can do my static and applied air pressure loss test. Okay? To do it, I gotta put it in a low forward gear again. Turn the engine off. Now that we're in a low forward gear, I can release all my brakes and we're not gonna roll. Turn the key back on, let my gauges settle before we start the test. So they're still moving. I gotta wait for my needles to stop moving. So my needles stop moving right about 86 psi. So now I'm gonna wait for 1 minute and see how much air pressure we lose in a minute with no pressure on my brake pedal. I'm not on the brake pedal right now. So in 1 minute, we should lose no more than 3 psi of static pressure in a combination vehicle. So we'll wait and we'll time it. Okay, let's say a minute went by. We're still at 86 psi. So it's a good test. We didn't lose more than 3 pounds of pressure. So now I got to test my applied pressure loss. So now I'm going to put my foot on the brake pedal and give constant pressure to the brake pedal and see how much psi we lose then. So my foot's on the brake pedal. And I'm going to drop my gauges to about 76 psi, okay? So we're starting at 76 now. So let's time it for 1 minute to make sure I don't lose more than 4 pounds of pressure of applied pressure to my brakes. So applied is no more than 4 pounds with a combination vehicle. So we'll start timing it for 1 minute. So a minute goes by and we're at 73 psi. So we lost 3 pounds of pressure. It's not less than 4 pounds, or not more than 4 pounds, so it's a good test. So both my static and applied pressure tests are good.
Okay.
Right? So now I gotta set my brakes again. Put it back in neutral, perform another safe start. Let my gauges sweep and settle. It's in neutral, brakes are set. I gotta build air back up because we're gonna do the tug test next. We're gonna test the spring brakes on the tractor, spring brakes on the trailer, and the service brake on the tractor, the trailer. Okay. First one we're gonna do is we're gonna test let's test the tractor, or the tractor spring brakes, okay? So I'm gonna release the trailer brakes. So now the only thing holding us in place is the tractor spring brakes. I'm gonna put it in a low forward gear, and I'm gonna do a simple tug test to make sure that the spring brakes on the tractor hold us in place. So we did a tug test. The tractor didn't move. Let me know the the spring brakes on the tractor held us in place. So it's a good test. So now I gotta set the trailer brakes, release the tractor brakes, and perform another tug test on the trailer spring brakes to make sure that the trailer spring brakes hold us in place. Do another tug test. We didn't move anywhere. Let me know that the trailer spring brakes are working and they held us in place. Now I'm going to release all my brakes, keep my foot on the brake pedal, and try to pull against the brake pedal to see if the service brakes work. We didn't go anywhere. Let me know the service brakes work. I'm going to set all my brakes, put it back in neutral, turn it off. That concludes my air brakes test.